Good evening, everyone.
Good
Whew.
evening.
So thank y'all for tuning in to the Whole Child series. My name is Bianca Goolsby, and my fabulous co-host Kimberlyn Jackson. Please tell the people how you doing today.
I am present. That's what I'm gonna say. Today's date, for the sake of history, is April 13th, 2021. And it's a lot going on out here in this world. The last time
Hmm.
that we met like this was the day after the insurrection that happened at the Capitol. And we kind of contemplated, should we do the show? Like, it's just so much going on. And decided then, as well as now, that we should probably curate a space to have a conversation, a candid conversation, to be free to have an opportunity to be able to process and talk about some stuff. So
Yeah,
I'm present. I'm present. How are
I,
you?
I feel you. I'm present, but I want to add something to that. I'm exhausted.
Mm,
I am just exhausted, and it's just one of those things where just the whole balancing, the advocating and doing what's right, but then also being intentional with yourself and not
hmm.
putting yourself out there too much and just kind of balancing that. And so that's kind of
Hmm.
where I'm at right now, but really exhausted.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that feeling. And I think that those of you who are watching us live or listening to us probably feel that same sentiment. And we do need to kind of take a collective sigh, right? I think there's the advocacy piece of it. There is the living in a brown body. There is um, thinking about our children and thinking about the world that we're raising them in and the world that we're trying to protect them from. Um, and yeah, trying to just figure out what's going on with us. So when we were trying to figure out what to name the show, um, I was like, we should probably call it Triggers, because there are so many triggers at play here, right? When we think about triggers, we may think about mental health triggers, and we'll talk about that. But also, I was literally thinking about gun triggers, which are at the root of a lot of the exhaustion that is happening right now. So, um, for the sake of history, let's kind of talk about some of the things that have happened. So, one of the things that came out, and this, I can't, the days are kind of running together. So, this was yesterday. What's today? Today's Tuesday. Yeah, so yesterday, see, the things are running together. There was a school shooting in Knoxville. I don't know if you heard about this, but there was a student at a school in Knoxville who had a gun on campus. The police found the student in the bathroom, and then the student started firing at the police and injured. An officer, and the officers returned fire, and it was a whole, lockdown situation or what have you, that happened. And that is one thing, because we also had that mass shooting that happened in Atlanta a couple weeks ago, that was targeting the the Asian Pacific Islander community. And then there was another shooting that happened or a situation that happened at the Capitol building, where someone rammed the barrier there and got out with a knife, and that person was shot. So, and then I think about the gun violence that has been happening in our communities, all across the nation, where young people are being killed, sacrificing their lives, jumping in front of bullets to save younger siblings. And it's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of triggers. So, have you heard about any of those instances? What are your thoughts on those things?
So I did hear about the school shooting, and I get these alerts, these targeted Google alerts, so I could like post breaking news on Teacher for the Culture. I was so exhausted that I couldn't even do it.
Hmm.
And just to understand that just last month we seen the memes that went around to say, oh well, we survived a month without school shootings, and here we are, you know.
Hmm.
Um, in regards to the situation with the shooting that happened in Atlanta, you know, I was concerned just, I have people in Georgia,
Hmm.
I don't know where they're at, it's just really scary. Just the
Hmm.
fact that people can just have a gun and just be just reckless and have no
Hmm.
regard for other people and their life and their livelihood. And it's just really exhausting.
Yeah.
Um, so I have tried not to consume the news as much, especially during this past 2 weeks, because it's just been a lot for me.
Hmm.
And, I intentionally wanted to stay away from the trial. I wanted to stay away from some of the recent activity of discrimination and racism in our country. And all I could really do is just be in the moment and just pray for our children. The adults are going to do what they're going to do, but I just think about the children who don't have a choice in the matter, who didn't
Hmm.
ask to be here, and what can we do to help our children, because they're going to do whatever they're going to do. We can't stop the gun violence. We can't stop the music that is being played throughout our radio airwaves and all the streaming services. We can't do anything with that. But what we
Hmm.
can do is we can model the behavior for our children and encourage folks to be better humans. So that's honestly where my focus and intentionality has been.
Yeah, I totally feel that too. And just again, for context and history's sake, when we're talking about the Derek Chauvin trial, the officer who murdered George Floyd, that led to the copious amounts of Black Lives Matter protests that took place last summer. So he's currently on trial right now, and I haven't watched either, Bianca. I really can only take so much, So in that exhaustion that you are expressing, um, a lot of times I feel like we're living in a movie. Like I feel like we're in this like perpetual twilight zone,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if I think back to the events of these past two, if this year feels like it's been a year, it hasn't even, it's just April. But thinking back to last year, this time we were just wrapping our minds around COVID and realizing we weren't really going back to school in person. Like people were still off trying to figure out, how they were going to pay bills and, getting unemployment or like what was happening with that. And then we had Ahmaud Arbery's murder and Breonna Taylor's murder, and then George Floyd's murder, and then went through the entire summer of rectifying. In our minds this racial um, injustice that had many people were just coming to reckoning with, right? We've
Mm-hmm.
always lived with it, but watched many people, companies, organizations just kind of be thrust into wokeness, if you will. So dealt with that, and then continued dealing with that, and continue trying to process all of everything that was going on with COVID, and kids still aren't going back to school, right? And just kind of trying to process that. And we got to the end of the year, we were like, whoo,
Yeah.
okay,
Mm-hmm.
2021, you better come up in here and sit down
That's
and
right.
act like you got some sense. And that did not happen.
Mm-hmm.
So we're continuing in this year to grapple with this disease of racism that exists, this disease of gun violence that exists, and it is a lot. Um, so when you say exhaustion, I often find myself mentally fatigued, in my mind not thinking clearly, and struggling to find words. You know, things just
Mm-hmm.
feel really, really cloudy, and um, not quite right, to the point that I was like, I think I need to go to the doctor. Like like something is happening, and this is me, y'all know I'm like always super transparent about things. But I walk into the doctor's office, and they said, what brings you in? And I said, oh, well, I need a primary care physician. And they said, oh, okay, so just a standard visit. I was like, well, no. Uh, so my job is stressful, and all of these things that are happening in the world, and having to explain to people about why their behavior is unacceptable, or having to explain microaggressions, or having to explain why we can't watch the Derek Chauvin trial because it'll be triggering. Um, I was like, yeah, I'm kind of stressed out. And the doctor brought in this checklist, and the checklist was anxiety and depression checklist, right? So I look at the checklist and I just start crying, like, immediately, because I already knew that everything on that checklist, I knew I was going to be like checking it all off, like all of it. So I'm like, okay, Kim, like, get yourself together, like, get yourself together. So I'm going through and I'm circling, and everything is just like every day, all the time, everything, all the days, all the times, all the things, like, oh my God. And I get to the bottom of the checklist. They come and get it. My doctor comes in and she says, oh, let me see, what your score was. And I was like, it's high. So she was like, oh, like high, like 15, 16. And then she looked at it, she was like, ooh, it's high, like over 20. And I was like, yes, ma'am. And just lost it. Like, just lost it. And one of the things that she said to me is, your brain is tired. Your brain is tired from having to function through all the fogginess and all of the exhaustion and all of the craziness. Like, your brain is tired.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel as I'm listening to you and looking at you here on the screen. It's like just this um, weight that is kind of sitting on your shoulders. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, and I'm real transparent. This fight that I've been on, and for those of you that are listening or just tuning in, you may not know, but um basically I've set up a role to where I hold districts accountable. And I hold them accountable based off public records and ensuring that they are doing exactly what they say they're doing but also having a focus on our children and being watchdogs to ensure that we are getting equity in education. And so, this particular fight with Hillsborough County Public Schools has been very triggering for me, for a multitude of reasons. Number one, it just kind of brings me back to the traumatic experience of me being retaliated against, with me being intimidated to be quiet when things weren't right. But then it adds another level to that because there's people that are well aware of what's happening, and either they choose to stay silent, either because they're afraid of retaliation, or they don't know what to say, or they don't have the confidence to move in that. And then you
Mhm.
have another portion of that where you have people that are directly responsible that have no regard for some
Mhm.
of the actions that they make and the decisions that they make every single day. And it is so exhausting. It is so exhausting getting messages from educators that don't know if they're going to have a job and wants me to interpret a cuts chart to see if they may or may not have a job. It
Yeah.
pains me to have APs and principals reach out to me and saying that this is the situation that they're being placed in, and they feel uncomfortable and they don't want to say anything because they have a family to feed. And it's just exhausting because our children deserve so much better. And
Mhm.
I feel like I'm like breaking down, getting ready to cry. Um, but like this work is serious for me. Like I just want our kids to be better and to do better. And they can't when we have leaders in positions that have no regard and are not intentional with their decisions. And instead of being truthful, instead of being accountable, instead of operating in integrity, they shift narratives, they gaslight, and they blame shift, which will never solve the root of the problem. So thank you for recognizing that everything is not okay and giving me a safe space to kind of share. But I mean, this battle has been an emotional journey. And this is why I keep saying, like,
Mhm.
I'm going on vacation because it's my way of identifying that I need a break. And so,
Yeah.
after Friday, I am serious about this because there's nothing else that I can do. I have flagged this budget deficit before it became public, and I've been doing everything that I could to raise awareness. And so now it's in the people in Hillsborough's hands on what
Mhm.
they're going to do about it because I'm tired.
Yeah. Yeah, and I appreciate your vulnerability in that moment because I think a lot of times we put out the highlight reels of the wins and all of the stuff that we can celebrate, but this is the part that people don't really see. Right. We don't talk a lot about the emotional toll. We don't talk a lot about the physical toll, right? The psychological toll that advocacy work has on people, right? And sometimes I feel like people think that this work is really sexy and, you get to be in the forefront and you have these platforms and they don't realize the level of attacks and the level of burden that sits on the shoulders as we choose to be whistleblowers, as we choose to speak truth to power, as we choose to come up against systemic racism and people in high places who are willing to do anything to maintain their comfort and maintain the status quo that they have established. This is the part that we don't necessarily talk about. But it needs to be talked about because we are people, right? We are people. And just in thinking about Black and Brown people in general, a lot of times our humanity is stripped away. The fact that we have feelings and emotions is taken away from us. It's kind of like, you can take that, you're strong. You're gonna get through this. And I don't know about you, but that's about the most unhelpful thing that anybody can say to me. My response has started being, look, I'm tired of being strong. Okay. Over it. I don't want to be strong. I don't want to be strong right now. Right now, I want to acknowledge the fact that I really want to just go lay down and curl up and cry because this is so much. This is so heavy. So I appreciate your vulnerability in sharing that. We keep using this word triggers, and I do want to define it just for the sake of making sure that we are using common language. So when we're talking about a trigger, we're talking about anything that sparks an intense emotional reaction, regardless of your current mood. So that could be a memory, an experience, or an event. And most times, triggers are associated with PTSD. And when we think about PTSD, we think usually about the military, and our service members going into war and experiencing some type of traumatic response or trigger from that. What we know is that as Black people, we live with generational trauma. We've had, in our past two shows, we've had two mental health specialists come on who have talked to us about epigenetics, so the trauma that we carry with us from generation to generation, as well as the type of trauma that we carry within our current environment and just being Black and brown people living in this world. But then the additional trauma that there is based on situations, right? So all of that can provide a triggering type of experience. And it's something I think that we're conditioned to ignore because we're trying to be so strong and trying to push through and trying to be the drum major for justice that we ignore when we're being triggered. So then we find ourselves in a situation much further than we should be. And then we're trying to figure out how to get out of the situation because we're boxed in, when if we would have honored our triggers, we may not have gone into the situation that way or have had a support system around us. So, just for throwback's sake of talking about triggers, I have been asking myself as I've been trying to navigate a particular situation that has been going on in my space is, what are those early signs for me that let me know that I'm about to be triggered? And one of the things I can say for me is feeling anxious first thing in the morning, right? So usually I wake up probably about between 7:30 or so. And what my therapist had me doing was a mood journal. So I am supposed to track my mood in 2-hour blocks throughout the day. And what I began to notice when I started doing this is every day about 6 something, mind you, I told you I wake up about 7 or 7:30, about 6 something in my sleep, my stomach just doesn't feel right. So when I'm looking at my my Fitbit sleep tracker, I see that about 5:45, 6 o'clock, I start tossing and turning and getting restless, right? Just before it's time for me to wake up. So I'm already entering my day in this anxious state because I'm anticipating the trauma and the triggers that are going to come as I enter the day, right? Something else that happens for me is I feel this thing in my brain. So it's almost like I feel like my brain is expanding, like it is taking on a larger volume in my head, but of course it can only go so large, right? So it's like I feel like it's expanding, and then my skull is like, you can't do that. So it just keeps like happening. So for me, that lets me know, okay, something is going on. Like I need to kind of assess what's happening here so that I can determine what my next move. Do you know any of your early warning signs?
So when I start to like tap my foot or like it's body motions for me,
Mm-hmm.
so it's physical. Like my physical body identifies that there's something that's not okay. And then I also resonated when you were saying about how your brain is expanding. Like I want to scream like, girl, me too. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's like it's a real thing where you just feel as though like, whoa, there's a lot going on right now. Let me whoa. And yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's almost like I used to describe it like I would feel like I was drowning or underwater. So it's kind of like this off balance type of thing. Sometimes my vision will get a little wonky, so not like I lose vision, but I just kind of feel off balance
Mm-hmm.
type of thing. And then lately I have been feeling kind of like this electricity of sorts through the rest of my body, right? So it
Mm.
starts out in my brain, and then I kind of feel like I don't know how to really describe it, but like this electric feeling like that happens in my extremities. And that lets me know like something is happening. So I've been trying to train myself to honor that, right? Get out of the habit of ignoring that and pushing through. Honor that, do an assessment, and then say, what can I change in this situation in order to make myself feel safer? Um, and I think that is so important because as we're processing all this stuff, so we mentioned the Derek Chauvin trial, but I didn't mention the fact that Dante Wright, a 20-year-old unarmed Black man, was just shot yesterday. And he had gotten pulled over for having too many air fresheners on his rearview mirror, and he got out of the car. The police were trying to apprehend him while they were trying to handcuff him. He got back into the car to try to flee, and a female officer yelled taser, taser, but then shot him. And I don't know about you, I'm not a gun expert or anything at all by any means, but what I do know is that tasers and guns don't look the same. They're not on the same side of the police officer's hip, and they discharge differently. So I'm not buying the whole accident thing. Like, I'm not here for that, right? But even with that, like that was an immediate trigger for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thinking about, I feel it right now in my skin. Thinking about how often we are confronted with these situations that are making it so apparent that our humanity is in danger and our mere existence is a threat to people's lives. And that becomes a trigger. So I haven't been able to lean into that either because I know, like my mind, every time I talk about it, like I just feel my brain just being like, I can't
Mm-hmm.
take anymore.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
So it's a lot that's happening. And, um, we always try to provide a space of candor and transparency, but also a space to be able to give some type of hope or some type of action steps. We definitely believe in talking through things and building capacity so that we're able to help ourselves, right? This whole podcast is about healing our traumas so that we're able to help our children with theirs. And there's this Instagram page that I follow. It's called Melanin and Mental Health. It's one of my favorite go-tos that I like to go to because they have really, really applicable social media post where they really give action steps that speak to us, that speak to people that live in melanated skin. So they made this post today and it says how to feel a bit more empowered in a world that tells you your life doesn't matter. And that spoke to me because
Mm-hmm.
I think I often find myself feeling helpless. Um, I know that we're making a difference, right? So as you were talking earlier about the advocacy work and just how tiring it is, like I know that we're making a difference. And I know that when you are a change agent and when you are a difference maker, that you don't always get to see the finished product. Sometimes you plant the seed and you water the seed, but the time that it takes for the seed to grow, you may not be actively involved in that process. And that's something I've been grappling with, as I don't like to leave things undone. Like I really like to complete things, put a nice bow on it, like put it on the shelf and like, yes, accomplish that. Like I love to do that, but more and more I'm growing to understand that um I'm not always meant to see that nice bow, right? I really am at the point of tilling the ground sometimes to even plant the seed, right? Then planting the
Mm-hmm.
seed, then watering and maybe putting down the fertilizer, but usually it's then time for me to move on to the next step. So feeling empowered is something that I often need because the work can become so taxing. So we do have some steps here that I want to go through, and it says over here on the right hand side in the caption, um, it's okay if you're not okay, because the stuff that's happening is not okay. So make sure you do something today to protect your peace and feel a bit more empowered. Remember, our healing is our resistance. And that spoke to me because
Mm-hmm.
I often feel like I have to sacrifice myself for the movement, right? So I'm like putting myself, literally putting my life on the line for the movement of making sure that our kids don't have to grow up in this world that doesn't value them. And again, I'm often grappling with, I have to take care of me, because if I don't, then I won't be here to further the movement, right? And thinking about educators or thinking about people who advocate and even parents, most times we put our kids before ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't take care of ourselves. So then when our kids need us the most, we're empty. We're
Mm-hmm.
exhausted. We have nothing left to give because we've given it all. So, I'm reminded of when we get on the airplane, they say, put your oxygen mask on first before assisting others. And this is kind of that reminder for that. So the first tip that is here is to move your body. It says trauma immobilizes us. Somebody asked me the other day how I felt, and I said, I feel paralyzed. Like I literally had finished, I was sitting here at my computer and I was doing some work and I got off at about 4:30. It took me maybe till about 5:15 to even like shake myself out of the fact that I was off. Then it took me until 6 o'clock to even get up from my computer. And we've shared with you all before that after triggering, it takes about 30 to 90 minutes to de escalate from a situation. So in that moment, I said to myself, I need to get up. I need to get up. So all of a sudden, I just jumped up and then I went outside and I took a walk and I felt so much better. So this says trauma immobilizes us. Movement of our bodies helps us to feel more grounded and empowered. The more exaggerated the movement, the better. So my question to you is, What is your favorite type of movement to do when you need to shake yourself back up and get yourself grounded?
Oh, that's a good question. I actually don't have one. I need to be intentional about that. I don't have, I mean, I like my bike, but I don't, when I'm triggered, I don't be like, oh, let me get on my bike. When I'm
Mhm,
triggered, I typically just have a moment of peace, ground myself. I'll probably grab my sage or something,
mhm,
and then just kind of sit with that and then move on with my day. But
mhm,
I don't ever recall a moment where I've been triggered and I was like, oh, let me go work out or move my body or go take a walk or
mhm,
anything like that.
mhm. And that may be something to think through, what that might look like for you to have a movement to go to. Because this is my thing. I usually find when I'm triggered, I can't remember what I'm supposed to do. Like it's too late, so I'm too
Mhm.
far down the road, right? So I've been trying to like have post-it notes around to remind myself. So at least if I see it, then I'm like, oh, go take a walk, right? Um, but then it got cold and rainy here, right? So then I was like, I'm not going outside in the cold and rain. I'm in Pennsylvania. Like, that's not happening. So what I decided was if I don't do anything but stretch,
Mm,
my body has been craving stretching. So I literally will just wherever I am in my house, just stand up and stretch. And it's not like a yoga pose or anything like that. It's literally like legs shoulder width apart and just bend over for a little while. Because just in that, it reminds me that I'm awake
mhm,
and that my muscles move and like there is something that's happening here and it gives my mind an opportunity to still itself. The other thing, if I can remember to do, is I like to dance. So I will put on some worship music and I may just kind of move around. And it usually doesn't start with the dance. It usually just kind of starts with me kind of just moving my arms or whatever, or maybe just kind of swaying back and forth. And then eventually that turns into a dance because that is something that brings me joy. I've always been a dancer my whole life. So when I can kind of, I feel like I try to knock myself out of that paralysis and
mhm.
then I get into this space where then it starts to flow. So moving our bodies is that first strategy. So then the second we mentioned already is turning off the news, cleaning your news feed. Um, I tried to be really intentional when George Floyd was murdered about not watching the video. And one day I was watching the news and it just came on. There was like no warning, no nothing. It just came on. Um, I have now made a conscious effort, and I've talked before, like how I'm a news junkie. Like I love to understand what is happening in the world. I don't think I've watched the news since last year. I just can't do it because I don't know what is going to show up on the screen. And I'm not trying to re traumatize myself just to be informed. So I choose to get my news from either reading sites, or I may watch a video that just gives a high level overview of all the things that have happened. But I cannot watch the news, and I also have stopped scrolling on my social media pages because people will share things, and it's not what I wanted to see. Um, and I know this is a place for you, especially with social media. So, what thoughts do you have here about this strategy?
So, cleaning the news feed is probably the best advice I could give anyone at this time. And I actually removed Facebook from my phone, and
Mhm.
Instagram from my phone, and I use third-party tools to communicate on social media, which eliminates a lot of the idle time that I would spend on social media scrolling the stuff
Mm-hmm.
that I, warned parents about. And
Mm-hmm.
it became something where I felt like I was becoming addicted.
Yeah.
Um, but please clean your news feed and the energy that you see when you are on social media. I just can't tell you enough how vital that is of what is being programmed into your brain and what you see. So yeah, and the whole sharing the video situation is just so interesting to me. Facebook policy when it comes to black bodies being murdered,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
how it could be shared and syndicated, and some without any type of content filter
Yeah.
or anything. But yet, if it was a different demographic, we would have a completely different conversation. Sometimes those videos don't even come up because it's a violation of some
Right.
policy that it doesn't match the same energy to all bodies. And so that again just goes to show the inequities when we talk about our tech industries and what has been allowed on their platforms. So just be intentional, clean up your news feed, and just know who you're watching, especially your kids. You need to know who your
Mm-hmm.
kids are following, not just you, but your children.
Yeah. Yeah. And the types of things, like I think about our little people that are on TikTok and all the things, and the types of things that they have the ability to be exposed to. I was having a conversation with a friend the other day, and he was like, his granddaughters were on TikTok, and he's like, oh no, they're doing the right thing. And I said, it might not be that they're doing the wrong thing. It's the people that have access to them. Right. So
Hmm.
we're not saying that your children are, horrible kids and they're making bad decisions. They may be making all the right decisions, but there are lots of people who aren't. And the fact that they're on the sites gives them the opportunity to be exposed to things that they don't necessarily need to be exposed to. So we can't just kind of throw our hands up and be hands off about it, because they don't need to be watching videos of people being murdered either. Their little brains can't take that at all. So that is a place where we really, really need to push in.
Yeah.
So then the third one kind of goes along with that. Mute, block, delete internet trolls. Why are you laughing?
Block them. When in doubt, block them.
Let me tell you something. My block game is so strong. That is one place honey, I will block somebody in a hot second and don't think twice about it. And I am equal opportunity blocker. You hear me? I don't care if we
Period, boo.
related. Listen, don't come at me with this crazy energy. You are blocked.
Period.
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 Period. It says here, your mind, body, and spirit are too precious to waste energy on arguing with people who are committed to ignorance.
Oh, Jesus. We needed that the whole 2020 election.
Mute, block, delete. If I get to a point where I feel like I need to mute somebody for some time, I'm blocking you.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even, why am I muting? There is something that is happening. Your energy is not jiving with my spirit. You've got to go. You've got to go. And I think sometimes we feel bad about that, but this is something else we talk about all the time, boundaries. Right? We have to have boundaries about what we will allow into our space, and that includes our virtual spaces. So get rid of them. Your spirit is too precious to waste energy with people who are committed to ignorance.
Amen.
Okay.
Amen.
Our fourth strategy here is to get involved with an organization that supports the community. So when we're feeling like what we're doing isn't making a difference, a lot of times if we link up with others, we feel that what we're doing matters. So one thing I can say about Teaching for the Culture is it is a supreme honor to be affiliated with the advocacy work that is being done. And the community that we have with Teaching for the Culture really keeps us going, fills us up on days where we're like, I just can't even anymore. Like sometimes we got to have a conference call right quick, group chat to encourage each other, right? But there is power in community and power in surrounding yourself with people who are moving in the same direction with like minds and like spirits, so that you're able to really be a part of the collective healing and creating change that you know is making a difference. Another community for me that I'm super honored to be a part of is Beautiful Brown Girls, where we have a collection of over 50,000 women across the country who are truly like-minded and just really want each other to win. We are, just encouraging each other and speaking life into each other. Another community I have is Win with Black Women. So this is over 2,000 Black women that sit in high places across the country that are making decisions, right? So it's like you have to find that community that you can really link up with to remind yourself what I'm doing does matter. I am making a difference here. It really, I'm doing something that's going to change something. Do you have any other communities that you found solace in?
So as far as like what my day job and what I do, there's different communities that I'm involved in as far as relating to coding, and with Black women coding and just
Yes.
generic just folks in the community coding. I've definitely been getting more connected in Clubhouse, and in that app
Mm.
Clubhouse there's different communities where we have talked about the school to prison pipeline, talking about education, and has allowed me to connect with folks to continue the movement work with Teaching for the Culture and
Mm-hmm.
beyond. So yeah, I'm a part of several communities that I'm like, yeah, like, but I definitely feel like I can definitely do some research to find more. I definitely
Mm-hmm.
want to get involved in like Toastmasters. And there's a couple of the communities that I have my eyes on that I definitely want to be a part of.
Yeah. Yeah, it's important. That like I said, like-minded people moving in the same direction. Um that hook a sister up type of energy, right? So
Yeah.
not people that are looking for competition, right? We're not here for that. Collaboration is the new competition. So I want to be surrounded with people that are going to speak my name in rooms that I'm not in to help me get in the room,
Yeah.
right? And I so appreciate that about the tribe that I have around me, is I know that we are talking each other up in spaces. Like, look, like, sis, I got an opportunity. What's up? You ready? Like, let's jump on the phone. Let's get it popping. Hey, I need you to be at this meeting. You there? Because this is a door that's about to open. Like, that is just so powerful and uplifting when we think
Mhm.
about how we have the ability to open doors for others and to bring others with us, right? I'm team. I want everybody to win that's connected to me. And I'm not going to stop until everybody that's connected to me has a pathway to achieving their purpose, right? So
Period.
if y'all don't have that, it is really, really important to get that. So that is tip number 4. So then our last tip here is to find a safe space to experience all your emotions. It says you
Mm.
have a right to feel every single emotion you're feeling. Find spaces where people will empathize, validate, and affirm your experience.
Mm.
Right. It's got to be a place to take the mask off. Right. We got to have a space where it's all right to not be all right.
Mhm.
I can think about how many times I've entered the group chat and I was like, mm-mm, nope, not today. Today's not a good one. And to know that that was a safe space for me to cry, for me to just talk all over the place as I can't even put sentences together, just to show up as me and don't feel that I have to present and have to be on and have to be the giver of advice, just to be able to show up and be like,
Yeah.
it's necessary. It's beyond necessary. And you know what I think about here is what this looks like for our boys and for our men. Um, do they have those spaces where they can feel?
Hmm.
When we think about toxic masculinity, we tell our boys and our men that they can't cry, they can't experience any emotion but anger, you know. But what would that look like for us to create spaces where they can be validated and affirmed, um, and to know that they are seen and that they're valued and that they're heard? Um, I wonder what that would look like.
I think we will be making better humans
Hmm.
for sure.
Hmm. Yeah.
I think sometimes we forget how important having safe spaces are. Um, Super transparent. You know, in my life growing up, I always had to wear a mask
Hmm.
because I felt that being my authentic self was never enough and always a problem.
Hmm.
And I navigated my life, most of my years, with this mask on. Um, and then you literally have to find yourself, you know?
Hmm.
And when you don't have a safe space with that, then there's a bunch of triggers and traumas that come with that. And so, my suggestion, and just me just putting this out here because it was just in my spirit to say it, that it's okay not to be okay. And we have to make sure that we're creating safe spaces so that we can have these conversations, because bottling it up or pretending and masking that is something that is not will only continue the trauma and will place you in a more harmful situation. And like I said, God saved me, and I wouldn't be here on earth if it wasn't for God. So,
Yeah.
um, it's one of those things where it's real, folks, and you need to talk to mental health counselors if need be. You need to talk to whoever you feel is a safe space, especially now in this time. Like it's a lot going on. So, please be intentional. Please find a safe space. Please.
Yeah. And thank you for mentioning counseling, because you may not have a group of friends that you can go to, or a tribe or what have you that you can go to for support. But there are things such as Talkspace or BetterHelp, or we covered another site called Dark Beauty here on the show. And these are places where you're able to get mental health support, mental health services. At the very least, listen to podcasts. Um, Therapy for Black Girls, Melanin and Mental Health. Follow the Instagram pages. Like, lean in to the places and spaces of people that are talking about mental wellness and taking care of our brains. We only got one, and it is literally the control center of everything that's going on in our lives. So we have to take care of it, and we don't talk enough about it The
Yes.
fact that our brain controls everything that happens with us, and we don't talk enough about taking care of our brain, our mind. We have to take care of that. So, prioritize that, reach out. If you need help finding someone, like reach out to us, on Instagram, or send us a DM. Like, don't be in a situation where you are trying to figure out what to do and don't know where to go. Call 211. They can also offer support and connection to resources. So there's stuff out there, and sometimes it just takes for somebody to partner with you to be able to help you. I know my friend that I mentioned, who is a physician, when I was going through my moment, and she was like, "Girl, like, send me your insurance card. Like, I'm gonna take care of this for you." And she helped me find a
Mhm.
doctor, and I was just so grateful for that, because my mind just couldn't do it. Like, my brain was so tired, I could not think anymore. And there's no shame in that. There's no shame in asking for help, or saying, I just can't do this right now, right? There are
Mhm.
people who legitimately love you and care about you, that want you to be healthy, but they don't know if you don't say anything. So let's normalize asking for help, so that we are able to take care of each other while we are navigating in this world that continues to trigger and traumatize us. We have to put ourselves first. And again, we got to stop sacrificing ourselves for the movement. We've got to make sure we're taking care of this one body that we got here on this earth, so that we can break these cycles for our children and for the next generations.
Facts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So today wasn't all like, super sunshine and rainbows. However, every day isn't. Every
Yeah.
day isn't sunshine and rainbows, and sometimes we just got to keep it real. So, thank you all for allowing us to take our masks off for a moment and kind of talk through and process some of the things that are happening out here in this world. And hopefully, you have gotten some validation and support that you're able to use for yourself, or to pass on to somebody else that you love.
So, Kimberly, how people can find you?
Oh, well, thank you for asking. So you can find me on my website, which is kimberlynjackson.com, or you can find me on Instagram at KimberlynJ. A reminder, I am a life coach. So I do work with women on helping to discover their God given purpose, and to really tap into that next level of destiny. So if that's something that you're looking for, or you know somebody who is, please shoot them in my direction. Where can the people find you, ma'am?
The people can find me at biancagoolsby.com. And I want to share something. It's in the progress. It's in progress right now, but
Okay.
I feel like it's somewhat good enough to share in these streets. So we have a new website that's coming soon. And so you're able to subscribe to the different platforms that we're on. So we're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and then we're also waiting for iHeartRadio to kind of move us over. For those of you that don't know, originally this podcast was hosted on the Teaching for the Culture platform, and because the whole child is expanding and we're doing some cool stuff with it, we actually have our own dedicated podcast now. So for those of you that were listening on Teaching for the Culture, you actually need to go to the Whole Child series, and that again is listed on the streaming platforms. And you can visit our website at thewholechild.tv. Yes, .tv.
Yay.
So we out here doing some work, and I'm just very grateful and thank you, Kimberlyn, for always being there and just being a good friend in this work, in this movement, and just to see our growth. I was configuring the website, and I went back to our first episode, and then I look at the production quality, the
Yeah.
content, where we are in life, and just to see how we have just blossomed in this work, and just doing movement for children. I just can't think of a better person to do this alongside with. So thank you so much for always being a writer and a good friend. And for those of you that are
Love
watching and
it.
listening, thank y'all again for watching and tuning into The Whole Child. You have any closing words, Kimberly?
I'm just proud. I'm proud of us and the work that we've been doing, and we're definitely looking to expand. So, those of you that are listening, please share far and wide. And if there are opportunities that you might be a gatekeeper to, go ahead and open those doors so that we can do everything we can to help our children. So, just thankful for our community and this platform that we've been blessed with.
Amen. So until next time, we will see you. Thank y'all for tuning in, and love y'all, and good night.
Bye, y'all.